you guys again. Sorry about that. So, yeah, Mr. Walker just rocking out there for a second. Sinead O'Connor, nothing compares to you. Again, I've done this before. We've been to this well, but it suits, again, a purpose here because that's what we're going to be learning about today. We're comparing again. So we've been learning about decimals here for the past few lessons. We've been understanding, like, the place value and place values and how decimals work and how we can compare them with fractions and do all sorts of stuff. And we just started to compare them looking at greater than, less than, things like that. And today we're going to take that up to the next step, which is comparing a whole bunch of decimals in various forms and being able to, to compare them, order them, and kind of rank them. So that's why I was rocking out, getting pumped up for this lesson with some Sinead O'Connor and Nothing Compares to You and comparing decimals and doing a math lesson with Mr. Walker because it's the greatest thing ever. Something like that, right? We can fit that in there. But anyway, so I thank you guys for joining me and for rocking out with me for a second there and putting up with my karaoke version. But get ready to compare and order some decimals and some mixed numbers in a bunch of different forms. So all you really need today is something to write on and something to write with. There are some cool cards that we're going to use to, like, sort out some numbers. So if you want to grab those from the module and print those out, that would be awesome. If not, you can write it down on paper too, but sometimes sorting cards out makes it a little more fun. So once you have those things and you're ready to go, click continue and we'll keep moving. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to do is I have a little bit of a challenge for you guys, right? I have some cards up here and they all have different values on them, and the values are represented in different ways, right? So what I want you to do first, I want you to take a look at these cards. They're even available to print out in the module if you'd like to. You can print them out, you can cut them out, and you can arrange them that way. But I want you to take a look at them and see if you can put them in the correct order from least to greatest, okay? We want to go from least to greatest. Now, I know we just kind of started off this math video here, and I'm sure you guys want to listen to me just kind of ramble on for a while about math, maybe even do some more karaoke singing or something like that. But we're going to start this off, and I'm going to give you guys some time to work. So I want you to take a couple minutes and try this out using any strategy you want, any strategy that makes sense to you, anything you want to try out to put these in order from least to greatest. So take a couple minutes, try that out, and then we're going to come back together and work on it together and see if we can make some good reasons as to why we ordered them the way that we did. Okay, so try this out, and then when you're ready, click continue, and we'll keep working. Alright guys, so when you look through with these cards, you can see that definitely we are representing some different values here, and we're representing those values in different forms, right? We have some decimals already written out, we have fractions here, we even have some word forms that we're working with as well, some standard written form. So to me, one of the first strategies that I might want to think about is getting them all in the same, like, format, right? Either in decimal form or in fraction form or in word form, something that I can kind of compare them all, like an apples to apples sort of thing. Now, you might not necessarily need to do that because especially some of these you could just read it. Okay, 3/10. Well, I know what 3/10 is, and this is 2/10. So even though they're in different formats, they kind of still sound the same. 34 hundredths, again, even though it's in a different format, it's still got that same familiar sound to it. So if you're able to do that, great. But just for the sake of things, I'm going to get them all in the same format so I can compare them a little bit easier. I'm going to choose to put them all in decimal format, like this guy already is here. So I'm going to leave him alone. But I'm going to come over here to my 34 hundredths, and I'm just going to rewrite that in decimal form here as 34 hundredths. My 4 is in the hundredths place, which is what makes it 34 hundredths, okay? 3/10. I'm going to put the 3 in the tenths place, so that's good there. 13 hundredths. I'm going to have to rewrite just like this. Again, that 3 is in the hundredths place, so that makes it 13 hundredths, okay? This is 17 hundredths. That guy could stay the same. 4/10, I'm going to rewrite just like this, 4/10. So now I can compare these a little bit easier, at least visually, to see because they're in the same sort of format here. So if I were to start to arrange this, so I have two numbers that have a 1 in the tenths place. I have 13 hundredths and 17 hundredths. If I look a little bit closer and I look at the hundredths place, well, this one has a 3, this one has a 7. So 13 hundredths is going to come first. That's our smallest number. 17 hundredths would come next. So let me see, do I have anything with a 2 in the tenths place? I do. Right here, look at that. 2 in the tenths place, so he's going to come next. What about a 3 in the tenths place? Well, again, here I have 2 of them with a 3 in the tenths place. This one has a 4 after it. This one doesn't have anything after it. If I wanted to make it a little bit easier to compare, I could put a 0 there. It doesn't change the value. 3/10, 30 hundredths, it's the same thing, right? So now I can look at this and go, okay, yeah, 3 and a 0, that's definitely less than a 3 and a 4. So it's going to go kind of like this. And then our 4/10 over here, he's going to be our last guy, our biggest guy here. So that was Kind of easy, kind of straightforward. I just had to get them all looking the same. Made it a little bit easier to sort out from there. All right, so let me get rid of this real quick now that we have them in order from least to greatest. And here's my next little task for you guys. What I want you guys to think about now is if we wanted to plot these numbers on a number line. Okay, if I wanted to put these numbers on a number line just like this, how would you go about doing that? How would you put these numbers on the number line? Like, where would they sit? What would you start with? What would you end with? Think about that for a second. And honestly, let's just start with the starting and end points first. If I was going to make a number line like this, what would my starting and end points be? So think about that for a second, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Well, I heard some good answers out there. I heard some reasonable answers. And here's kind of what I'm thinking. If we were to look at our numbers here, down here we have 13 hundredths. And at the biggest number that we have is 4 tenths, right? Or we could say 40 hundredths if we want. So I don't think I need to go any smaller than like 1/10. And I don't think I need to go any bigger than 4 tenths. So my number line, I could start it here with 13 tenths. Or I'll just say 1/10, okay? 1/10 here. And I can end it down here with 4 tenths. Because I'm not going to need to go any bigger than that. I'm not going to need to go any smaller than that. Now, if you wanted to start with 13 here, and well, this does kind of end in 4 tenths, but you could totally do that. You could start it off a little bit, but and you could go to 5 tenths. You can go to 6 tenths if you want. But realistically, this is kind of like the numbers that we're looking for in between here. Everything else is going to fall in between these two numbers. So now I want you to take another minute or two, and I want you to make a number line. I want you to plot it out. We have our endpoints. Where are these numbers going to fit here? How are you going to divide up your number lines? Where are your numbers going to fit? What's it going to look like when you actually plot these numbers on the number line? Go ahead and try that out, and then we'll talk about it. All right, guys, excellent plotting out there. Excellent plotting using those number lines to put those numbers up there. What I have here is I have an example of some work that some other students have done, some number lines that they have drawn, and how they've plotted out the numbers on the number line. So take a look at these for a second and compare them to what you have. Did these groups here, the student work that I have here, did they represent their numbers in the same way that you did? Or is there anything different? Any comparisons you can make between what you did on your number lines and what these students did here? Take a minute, talk about that, leave me some remarks in the discussion, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it together. Awesome. So I heard that some of you changed the numbers into decimal form so that they were all in the same form, and it made it easier to plot, kind of like this middle guy did here, right? They turned them all to decimals, made it a little bit easier to kind of lay them out, right? This student up here kept them all, or turned them all into fractions, which is totally fine too. Even though the fractions have different denominators, but it was still easy enough to plot them on the number line and put them in there. And then this student just kind of kept them the same, 2 tenths, and they represented them a few different ways on there. I made those comparisons there, which is awesome. In representing them then these different ways, did it change their position on the number line at all? No matter what form we used, all the numbers are in the same position, right? It doesn't really matter. So that's kind of cool to see that it works out that way, right? All right, I think we're starting to get the hang of ordering these numbers, and then even using like a strategy like the number line to be able to visually represent these numbers in an order, right? So let's try this again, man. You guys are good at this. Let's try this again. So I have some more numbers again, right? Now we have a mixture of mixed numbers, okay, a whole number and a decimal, or a whole number and a fraction, and then we have some regular different numbers in here as well. So we want to take a look at these and see how we might be able to order these numbers. So instead of going to the number line this time, I know we kind of looked at that in the last strategy a little bit. This time I want us to just order them from least to greatest, but I just want to use our less than symbol. Okay, so if we start with the least one, like 0 is less than 1, which is less than 2, which is less than 3, okay? So I want us to do that, but I want us to do it with these numbers that are up here. So we're still going to put them in order from least to greatest. We're just going to use our less than symbol to compare them, okay? So take a minute, work that out, work through these, put them in the order that you think would be correct, and then we'll come back and talk about it. All right, some of you might have had some different ideas on how to do that, and that's totally cool, totally great. But to me, the easiest thing to do here is to change them all to the same form, whether it's all fractional form, whether it's all decimal form, or if we do fractional form, we want to maybe even make sure that our denominators are the same. Whatever way works. For the sake of this, I'm going to change them all to decimals because I think it'll be a little bit easier to see. Okay, so this guy we can keep the same. here I have 18 tenths. So right there, that's a mixed number. It's an improper fraction, right? So I know it's going to be a number greater than whole. So let's think about this. 10, how many groups of 10 can I make from 18? Well, I can make one group. That would be 10, and there would be 8 left over. So that would be 1 and 8 tenths. 1 and 8 tenths, okay? So I'm not working with that guy anymore. This guy we can keep. Here I have 18 hundredths. So I have 18 hundredths. That 8 is going to be in the hundredths place, 18 hundredths. Here I have 1 and 81 hundredths. So that would be 1 and, that decimal is the and, 81 hundredths. That 81 is in the hundredths place. And then I have 190 hundredths. Again, that's a fraction greater than 1. That 190, that numerator is bigger than our denominator. So let's think about this. 100, I can make one group of 100 from that 190. I would have 90 left over. So that's good there. And I forgot to change my two fractions here into decimals. So this 1 and 8 tenths would look like this. 1 and 90 hundredths look like this, because my 90 ends in the hundredths place. This one might be a little tricky to look at first, and here's what else we can do with this. If I wanted to think of it this way, I could think of it as tenths, right? So I could divide this by 10 to get 10, and I could divide this by 10 to get 9. So 9 tenths, 9 tenths. Okay, if it's easier to look at it that way. 90 hundredths works as well. I just have to remember to have my 90, the end of my 90 in the hundredths place, so I have 90 hundredths, okay? So now I have all these numbers in decimal form, which makes it a little bit easier to start to order these. So all of these have whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, except for this guy here. This guy here does not have a whole number, so he's going to be my smallest. So I'm going to put him here as my least. Now let's bring some of these together so I can see them a little bit easier. And this guy here. Okay, so now all of these, or most of these, end in 8 or 9. This guy's the only one that doesn't, so he's going to come next. He has 0 tenths, okay, 0 tenths. All the rest of these guys have 8 tenths. So let's see, all of these have 8 tenths. This one has 0 hundredths here, so I think he's going to come next. This guy has 1 hundredths, so he's going to come next. This one has 2 hundredths, so he's going to come next. And then this guy has 9 tenths, so he's going to come last here. Now, to compare them using our less than symbol, I would just simply say 18 hundredths is less than 1 and 8 hundredths, which is less than 1 and 8 tenths, which is less than 1 and 81 hundredths, which is less than 1 and 82 hundredths, which is less than 1 and 9 tenths. Cool. Or 90 hundredths if you want to call it that. So man, that was a lot of comparisons there. I think we did an alright job, not too bad. Once you think about it, once you get them all in the same forms, and you could have easily have turned this into fractions if you wanted to. To me personally, it's a little bit easier to look at the decimals, but if you like the fraction route, hey, go for it. You just got to be careful with the fraction route that you're comparing either all tenths or all hundredths or something like that, or just be aware that you have tenths and hundredths in there. So far, we looked at comparing decimals and mixed numbers and fractions using a number line. We looked at it just changing the form in general and using our less than place value to do that. And we've seen that it's pretty easy to do as long as we're kind of looking at the same thing. So hopefully this gets you guys started, gets you guys thinking in the right way. You're also going to come across things like this where you might have like word problems, right? Ooh, word problems. It's really not scary though. It's the same sort of thing. We just have to look for those numbers. So some of the key words that would kind of like make me think like comparisons, that we're doing comparisons here, is this one says at the end, well, let's read the whole thing first. During a triple jump contest, Hae Young jumped 8 and 76 hundredths meters. Marianne jumped 8 and 7/10 meters, and Beth jumped 880 hundredths meters, and Lily jumped 8 and 7/100 of a meter. In what place did each student rank? So rank, that's a big keyword there, and in what place, that's another kind of phrase that's going to key you in and make you think, oh, I'm going to have to order these, right? I'm going to have to order these. Now this doesn't say to put them in least to greatest, so you could do greatest to least, but really it's looking for place, so you might want to do like first, second, third, something like that. First, second, third. All right. So I want you guys to take a look at this word problem. Think about this for a second. Look at the different measurements, right, and see if you can put them in the proper order. And we'll go, place-wise. First, second, third, fourth. How many is there here? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll have first, second, third, and fourth place. see if you could put these students in ranking order, and then you could submit that. That'll be your last little part of the video here. So let me know what you get on that. See if we can apply what we've learned. Alright guys, so thank you for watching. Thanks for playing along with me. Thanks for practicing ordering and ranking some of these decimals and fractions and mixed numbers here. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please reach out and let me know. You guys have been doing great with this, so keep up the good work. I appreciate you guys hanging with me today, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.